Chapter 061, Expressive. Sophia spent most of the day filling her domain with extra magic by using her body to transport her authority through a portal and resetting it in the regular world at the same time. While doing that, she also had a good time with Maya because they used their time off to watch TV and cuddle in their mansion in the capital. Again, wow. Sophia still had difficulties wrapping her head around the fact that her entire vision had turned pink and purple from all the magic particles in the vicinity around her. She wasn't even sure that she was in the right spot where the cherry blossom forest was planned to grow because she couldn't even see her lower body because it was just magic particles everywhere. In fact, she could barely see her chest, and her hand disappeared around 20 centimeters away from her face when she tested it out. It's actually pretty scary. She didn't like how limited her vision was. Could you all give me some room to breathe and see? While saying so, the blonde moved her arms in a way like one would open and part a curtain. Immediately after, the particles started moving and created an empty zone between the tiger and the outskirts of the borrowed cherry blossom forest that was indeed in front of her. Much better. She looked relieved. Not that I don't love being surrounded by you all, but I was starting to feel claustrophobic here. Now that she was actually able to see, the literal walls of pink and purple particles around her seemed even more impressed. My method was way more effective than I thought, huh? How many times of my regular authority ended up being here? A second later, a small group of particles split from the wall and moved in front of the tiger. There, it reshaped itself to a floating 30x in the air. 30 times? Her eyes grew wide. How did that happen? Sophia couldn't believe that it was this much. But regardless of that, that has to be enough for the size, the terrain, and the colors, right? The particles in front of the tiger changed again and turned themselves into 3 checkmarks instead. Let's go. The blonde energetically raised her hand high in the air. Wait. She then looked at the 3 floating checkmarks in front of her while also tilting her head. Were you guys always this good at communicating? The tiger seemed quite confused. Hearing that, the particles then changed themselves into a question mark shape. That. She pointed at them. Before, you all only moved up and down or from side to deny or confirm something or hit me with wind magic when I made you upset. I still easily understood you because there were tons of emotions behind the way you reacted, but I'm getting precise answers now. What changed? She was certain that something was different. Immediately after those words, the rogue magic particles scattered and merged into the walls around the tiger again. Oh, you don't want to tell me, huh? Sophia then proceeded to sound extra hurt and sad. And here I thought we would be able to get along even better now. I guess I was wrong. The instant she finished her sentence, the magic particles got quite active. They began to move around the blonde frantically and created something like a tornado, just even more frantic looking. Well, at least it still seems like you're easy to read. That's a small relief, I think. She tried her best to sound even more sad. Unfortunately, it backfired, though. Magic saw through her act, and the next thing the blonde noticed was being hit by a powerful gust of wind. It had so much force that it easily lifted her off the ground, but not just that, it was enough to shoot her into the wall of magic particles and made her disappear into it before the tiger even had the chance to react. It took Sophia around 5 minutes to return to the spot she was blown away from, and it wasn't just because she had difficulties navigating through the dense particles. Whoa. My ears are still ringing because the wind was super loud while flying through the air so fast. She needed a moment to recover. You definitely still get very upset about being teased, too. That's reassuring. In one way or another. Seriously, what changed? There was no way she would let something like that just slide. You all definitely got way more expressive. Never before have you used actual signs or even numbers before. Wait. She then took a good look around. Is it because there's so much of you now? It's the only thing that actually changed, after all. It certainly can't be because I brought you all here by expending my authority constantly. It's impossible for you to get smarter by passing through me. If anything, you'd get dumber. For some reason, the magic particles completely stopped moving and froze in place. Hey! She didn't like their absolute lack of a reaction. You can lie for all I care, but don't stay silent there. Not moving for another moment, a few particles then formed a thumbs up sign in front of the tiger. It's too late now. She didn't enjoy being consoled, either. Anyway, Sophia decided to not further engage in the topic. The topic she started, that is. It is because there are more of you now, right? Are you some sort of hive mind? The more of you there are, the higher your intelligence and capability to think gets. Or at least being able to communicate on a higher level? The loose particles returned to the others, and all of them began to move just a little bit. I'm not actually sure what that reaction means. The blonde scratched her cheek. It doesn't seem to be a no, though. She stared at them for a while longer. If that's actually the case, that's beyond amazing. Sophia was getting excited. The possibilities. They're endless. Really excited. Wait. Incredibly excited. How much ambient magic in one spot is needed for you to actually talk? Spoken words and all that. The ambient magic stopped moving for a moment afterward. Then, a sizable group of particles separated from the rest and circled around Sophia a couple of times before moving up and down in front of her. Yes? She tilted her head while interpreting their nodding. Yes, is not a suitable reply to my question. The tiger got loud. I can't believe even you guys are using that sort of non-reply on me. I never should have introduced that to this world. Sophia sounded extra dramatic. Not telling, huh? Well, I guess I have to find out myself. It's more fun, too. Hearing that, the particles got extra cheerful and circled around the tiger at an even higher speed. You want me to find out, but can't help me too much, is it? She tried to guess their reaction, and she got a floating checkmark in return. Stupid rules, but I can see the reasoning. It's quite big, after all. I can't wait to talk to you all, though. She smiled at the floating particles in front of her, who then eagerly swished around all over the place, seemingly being excited, too. Alright, let's play with the forest for the time being. Sophia decided to change the topic. Wait. She reconsidered. If we go through with the plans and grow the cherry blossom paradise, won't all of you stop being here? You'll get used up to convert the area, read dash? The blonde wasn't able to finish her sentence because another gust of wind had sent her flying again. No? The tiger tried to understand why she was sent flying again after she returned a few minutes later. Immediately after, multiple pink and purple floating eggs formed in the air all around her. Okay, that's a clear reaction. Sophia nodded a few times. Why, though? For the plants to grow, they absorb you, right? Reacting to that, the particles got very active in front of her. At first, a group of them formed into a cloud. Then, a sparkly pink and purple tree appeared next to it as the particles formed into something resembling it. Okay? She looked quite confused. The particles weren't done, though. The cloud moved into the tree, and it turned twice as big. A little while later, many pink and purple particles began shooting out of the tree's crown like a fountain. After it was done, the tree still had the same big size, but the cloud that got absorbed later was back and had more than 3 times the previous size. Sophia needed a minute to let it sink in. Right, if plants turn magical, they start radiating raw magic into their surroundings, which then help the other plants grow, and so on and so forth. She nodded a few times while remembering that part. Rather than being used, you just change purpose for a while, before returning stronger than ever? Hearing the tiger come to that conclusion, the magic particles stopped their play, and a few of them formed into a thumbs-up shape. Even more so, the thumbs-up then moved in front of the sparkly tree while a thumbs-down appeared in front of the regular pink and purple cloud. She tilted her head. You want to be useful. It was the only thing the blonde could think of. Just being a massive pile of sparkly particles is no fun, and you'd rather be productive? The particles then only showed a thumbs-up reaction before getting rowdy and swirling around Sophia a couple of times in an excited manner. "Ah, I see." She started smiling. "Fair enough. It makes sense that you guys work a little differently. I still want to get enough ambient magic that I can talk to you, though. Well, I guess having a massive forest that constantly generates more of you would help there, huh? Alright, let's finally get started on our cherry blossom paradise." Sophia energetically raised her arm while the particles around her only increased their pace, too. Afterward, once the complicated topic was over, they finally got to work on what had been planned hours before. Chapter 062, Kicked Out. Sophia had flooded a part of her domain with so much magic that all the pink and purple particles got so dense that it was impossible for her to even see the hand in front of her very eyes. The high concentration also revealed that the conscious side becomes more expressive and intelligent the more ambient magic there is. The blonde was very motivated to explore this revelation a lot more, but the particles refused to tell her the details, and she lacked the skills to solve it on her own for the time being. Because of that, they decided to focus on the cherry blossom biome first. I really need to have another chat with Mira soon. Maybe I can get some more juicy secrets out of her. Sophia was still highly motivated to find out the whole truth about magic and how it really works. For now, forest time. She raised her arms, and a group of pink and purple particles immediately circled around it. Do I need to actually do anything, though? She tilted her head. I've already filled the area with my magic/authority, and we talked about what I want. Magic can take care of the rest and play around a bit, too. Let's go and do your thing. As it was the first time she didn't actively use magic, the blonde was a little unsure how to proceed. Then, a number of particles moved around her head and made it impossible for her to see anything anymore. Huh. A few moments later, once the particles decided to let her see again, Sophia wasn't sure how to react. A little bit of the ambient magic was still left and happily circling around her, but most had simply disappeared, which made her be able to clearly see the patch of cherry blossom forest in front of her. Before, the dense particles had blocked her view quite severely, after all. Is it done? I can sense a lot of power from the flora around us, but it will take a while, huh? In response to that, the remaining few particles in front of her moved up and down a couple of times. Noticing how their ability to communicate had decreased, Sophia's expression changed. Thanks to that, though, she was immediately hit by a gust of wind. Come on. I know you're happy to do something useful, but it is still a little sad from my point of view. She raised her voice. Let me get used to it, okay? The tiger was treating the particles as individuals, which, in their eyes, seemed to be the wrong approach here. Hearing this, the ambient magic stopped attacking her and went back to moving up and down while also energetically swirling around her. Well, if you're happy, it really can't be a bad thing. She cheered up again after seeing how well they were doing. What now, though? She pointed at the forest. A moment later, one of the usual portals appeared in front of her. I like how I am not surprised that you guys can create my portals. Well, the portals are made out of you, so I guess it makes sense. Sophia nodded a few times. Wait, you want me to leave? While tilting her head, the particles moved up and down even stronger than before. How rude. Getting kicked out of my own place. She immediately started pouting but stopped doing so just as quickly the moment the tiger started noticing that it was getting windy around her again. I'm just kidding. The forest needs time to grow and develop, right? There's nothing to do for me right now, so I might as well head home because you all also want to help with the forest, right? Trying to guess their intention, Sophia was rewarded with another nod by them. Alright, have fun. She smiled at them. I'll come back and visit tomorrow. You better make sure I can't believe my eyes when I return. I want to be swept off my feet by the sights. Nodding a few times, the particles circled around the tiger for a moment before also heading into the forest. Sophia watched them leave for a moment longer before she then took the portal. And I'm home. After crossing through the portal that the magic particles made for her, Sophia found herself in front of their cottage. tiny bit disappointed I didn't end up somewhere else entirely. She had hoped for something more exciting. I have no intention of going near the three cold freaks today. Anna and Maya seem to be inside, no signs of Mira and Faye. Oh, Fenny and Ari are in their little relaxation spot again. Let's pay them a visit and see how they like the cherry I gave them. Having found something of interest with her detection magic, she immediately headed out again. Welcome. There, the blonde was immediately greeted by the duo. Wow, I would have lost the bet about you two napping again. She couldn't believe that they were awake. We would never. Ari raised her voice. Your hair looks slightly disheveled, though. Sophia smirked at her. Some of Fenny's fur is sticking to it, too. She reached for the jaguar's hair and removed some of the grayish fur there. You need to do something about that shedding, my dear. She then smiled at the wolf. Ari's cheeks turned red. It's just too comfortable here. I'm not blaming you. I'm starting to lose my winter coat. Fen had no intention of coming up with an excuse for the napping. It's only natural that I'm shedding. Oh, right. The blonde nodded a few times. After having gone through that cold hell lately, I almost forgot that it's spring. Why do you think I opted against joining you on the mountain range adventure? The wolf just looked at her. Because you're lazy? She stared back at him. Fen went silent for a moment. I mean the other reason. Are you also shedding or just lazy? Sophia then focused on Ari again. Actually, the jaguar then moved her tail in front of her and used her hand to pluck out a strand of fur. It's not as strong as in Foal's, but I do have a bit of a winter coat going on that is starting to shed now. Seriously? The blonde hadn't seen that one coming. Wait, then, there was no reason for you to complain about being cold as much as I did. Even more, actually. I'm the most cold-resistant cat in the group, after all. She won't ever let go of that. How is my winter coat going to help me when the only fur and hair I have is on my head and tail, while the entire rest of my body is completely free of it? She didn't let that excuse count. Fair enough. Sophia could follow her reasoning. Also, you're the same. Ari threw it right back at her. Your tail definitely looks a little thicker than I remember it being in summer. It does? The tiger took a better look at her own tail and also plucked out some loose fur. You're right. If it slowly gets thicker, you don't really notice it, but the fluffier bits of hair are definitely loose. I can't believe I'm shedding. She learned something about her body she didn't need to know. It probably started when my hair began to turn lighter and fluffier, huh? Not a fan. See? Ari felt vindicated. You have an even bigger winter coat because your hair got thicker on top, but because you also have no fur on other parts of your body, it's pointless. And cold. How do you know where I do and don't have fur on my body? Sophia slightly raised an eyebrow. Because we've seen each other naked many times by now. Again, fair point. There was little she could say there. Though, I doubt Anna would be happy about your wording. The two of you have seen each other naked probably about as many times, too. It's fine. Sophia actually looked impressed. I absolutely love this cocky confident side of yours. And you've already seen me naked, too. She played into it. Don't you think we're moving a bit fast? If you two are done flirting, could I ask why you came here? Fen didn't want to deal with any of this and changed the topic while looking at the tiger. The duo noticed that they fell into their usual routine. Ahem. Sophia cleared her throat before continuing. I wanted to see how you two like the present I gave you. Present? Fen and Ari only tilted their heads. The weeping cherry I put in the area where you two planned the lake. Really? The wolf sounded surprised. We haven't been in that area yet. I've lost complete track of time after what I went through today, but that was like 5 to 10 hours ago, you know? She had been busy. What have you done all day? Napping? Fen and Ari went silent. The latter also turned her head away. Wow. There was a slight hint of envy in her voice. Alright, putting that aside, Do you want to go and see? Yes. They gave her a big nod. Oh. The trio arrived at the lakeside, and Fen and Ari immediately liked what they saw. Sophia had placed the roughly 100-meter-wide weeping cherry on a small island in the middle of the massive hole that the two planned to convert into the lake later on. It's a good one, isn't it? The blonde smiled at them. It's perfect. They kept staring at the massive tree filled to the brim with beautiful pink petals hanging down on the branches like garlands. Happy to hear. She liked their reaction. I can leave growing it to the right size to you, right? I've used so much magic today that I actually feel a little sore. It's enough for me for one day. Sure. The wolf reacted with a nod. Of code dash, wait. Ari was also about to agree when the tiger's words registered in her brain. What do you mean? How does one get sore from using too much magic? Tired, sure, but sore. How about you try to constantly use and recover your magic for about 10 whole hours for a total of 30 times your maximum capacity, while also doing it with your girlfriend in the middle of it after one thing led to another. Sophia remembered her session with Maya. I'll ignore the last part because that's just the usual, but what did you do? For what in the world do you need 30 times your power? Fen also got curious. I need it for my world. Sophia looked at him. This beast of a place is insatiable. The total amount of magic I need to add a sky is at least a 4-digit number of what I have at my disposal. At the very least. There could be even more zeros involved there. It turns out I'm way too weak to run this place efficiently. The two went silent. They knew how overpowered the tiger was and how much she loved to boast about that at every opportunity possible, so that statement was quite the shock to them. Okay, to be fair, I used the entirety of this amount of raw magic to grow a cherry blossom forest of a size that is beyond comprehension, so, yeah. She awkwardly scratched her cheek. Ah. The duo quickly was relieved that the blonde still was the same dork, regardless. Once the topic was over, Fen and Ari quickly bathed the cherry in a little bit of their magic before the trio returned to the cottage, as it had gotten very late. Chapter 063, Advanced Biome Growing. Sophia finished the preparations for her cherry blossom forest, and as there was nothing left to do for her because the blonde had to wait for it to grow, she decided to pay Fen and Ari a visit to see how they liked her present of the weeping cherry she placed in the area they planned to create a lake. I'm hungry. The moment the trio arrived back at the cottage, Sophia's stomach started complaining. Besides some popcorn, I haven't eaten any food today. I'll ignore your pronunciation on the food part, but I agree with the general statement. Fen rolled his eyes while also nodding. Food was a bit of an afterthought today. Yes. Ari felt the same. Because you forgot about it as you napped the entire day away? The blonde just looked at them. Hee. Happy with their reaction, the blonde entered the cottage while making her presence known. Food. Ari and Fen eventually followed her, and luck was on their side, too. Maya and Anna were cooking together again and had just finished doing so when they returned. Aura, Steph, and Chloe were also there by now, and the group had their usual dinner together. Sis. After dinner, everyone got comfortable together in the living room when Steph energetically addressed the blonde. I have good news. I don't like the sound of that. Sophia, on the other hand, had a bad feeling about it. How rude. She started pouting. I just wanted to tell you how Aura, Chloe, and I made the most amazing biome ever by collecting a lot of snow, a little bit of the mountain itself, and some cold-resistant plant life. It turned out amazing. That's even worse than what I had imagined. The blonde started shivering just thinking about it. Good job, though. I want diversity in my domain. She paused for a moment. I had enough cold, though, so I leave you to it without even taking a look. I want to boast to you about it, though. Then again, being unsupervised comes with its very own perks. She had conflicting feelings, but came to the conclusion that she could live with them. By the way, you look a little tired. Chloe faced Sophia and noticed a hint of exhaustion on her face. Did you do anything out of the ordinary? Yeah, you could say that I was quite busy. She just smiled at her. Oh? The pink fox seemed curious. Tell us. So was Steph. I kinda want to keep it a secret now. Sophia decided that she wanted to tease them a little. Just that if you see, hear, and or feel anything strange while being in my domain, please pay it no mind. Eh? The couple didn't like that. What you told us sounded quite different, though. Ari tilted her head. Huh? The dog girl got even louder. You told her, but not your own sister? She took it very personally. Not really. The blonde ignored her and focused on the jaguar first. Pumping 30 times my magic into the domain in rapid succession and using it all at once to massively terraform a huge area could make my domain a little rowdy for a while, don't you think? Well, if you put it that way, you do have a point. Ari was surprisingly accepting of her explanation. 30 times? The eyes of Chloe and Aura turned wide. You didn't tell me about that number when you explained your plan. Maya also got a bad feeling. To be fair, we were a little distracted, preoccupied, busy, and all over each other before we were above each other. Sophia awkwardly scratched her cheek. In that order, too. The catgirl paused for a moment. Fair. She nodded. After how we went at it, it's only natural to forget a few things afterward. Exactly. While I'm in awe at your impressive sex life and would like to ask some details later to learn those skills, could we focus for a moment? Steph was getting impatient. Sis, tell me what you did already. What did you need 30 times your magic for? Also, how? I would love to know the last part, too. Chloe also just got more curious. I found out that while ambient magic doesn't transfer naturally through my portals, I can guide it through by using my body. I spent most of the day in the regular world, sending my raw magic through the portal while also constantly regenerating it. Because my magic regeneration is faster than I can reasonably spend it, I ended up at 30 times my maximum capacity at the end of the day. I call it advanced biome growing techniques. Oh, that's so clever. The fox sounded impressed. Why that much, though? Aura tilted her head. My pine forest is already so big that it's hard to put into words, and I didn't even use all of my raw magic to grow it. With the amount you used, rather than a forest, it will be a cherry blossom country. Maybe even the size of a whole continent. And? Sophia looked back at her. Aura needed a moment. Good point. She then nodded along. Go on. Also, I'm not just growing the trees. The blonde lightly shook her head. I also plan to change the terrain because I don't want it to be just a flat area. Hills, rivers, and maybe even chasms require a lot to form. I think, at least. I also want the trees to mutate in a certain way to get different colors. All of that is going to be expensive. I don't have an exact number, but I have a feeling that I need about this much. She naturally couldn't go into detail about where she got that feeling from. Wow. The female wolf liked the sound of that. The terrain being flat is the only complaint I have about my wonderful pine forest. Injecting 30 times my magic into it will take a whole month, though. My regeneration isn't nearly as fast as yours, after all. If you only want a less flat terrain, 30 times isn't nearly necessary. Sophia thought about it for a moment. I think you should be okay with 5 times at best to create something nice looking. That sounds a lot more manageable. Aura got excited again. I'm not entirely sure how well it will work if the forest is already built, though. The tiger scratched her cheek. I wouldn't be surprised if some things get messed up in the process. That's totally fine. She nodded a few times. After all, I can just fix it afterward. If I can make it better, I'll happily redo parts of it. Sure thing. Sophia was a big fan of her enthusiasm. Just pour out your magic in the area you want to change, but do not use it for anything. Let it accumulate until, you can't see raw magic particles, right? I can't. Aura shook her head. Only you and those two can. She then glanced at Chloe and Steph. Fei also can. The pink fox sounded a little proud. Mira, obviously, can do so, too. Probably has something to do with us being so exposed to overseer magic? She tilted her head. The sisters have been gifted magic by them, and I'm the daughter of one. Sounds about right. The blonde nodded. That's my theory, too. Be it as it may, while I can't see it, I can feel the concentration around me. The wolf got back to the topic. I should be able to tell once I released 5 times my total power, if that's what you meant to say. Exactly. She smiled at her. Once you feel like it's at that level, get me, and we can play. Great. The same offer stands for everyone else, too, of course. Steph thought about it. My current frozen tundra makes sense to be flat, but my eternal ice kingdom of frozen perfection could do well with some snowy mountains. I'll help. Chloe got just as motivated over the dog girl's idea. Also, your regeneration is super fast, too, and mine's even faster than Sophia's. Let's go. Steph's excitement soared even more. Let's recreate the mountain range we're exploring right now. Just even bigger and much colder. Great idea. The fox nodded along. Even Sophia's 30 times her magic will take us no time at all. The original mountain range will pale in comparison to what we're going to create. I love you. She was touched by her enthusiasm. Love you, too. Chloe smiled at her. Have I made a mistake? Sophia was already regretting her suggestion. On the other hand, it will introduce so much raw magic to my domain, and that will bring us ever so slightly closer to getting a sky. She had very conflicting emotions on the matter. Alright, fine, the tiger allowed it for the greater good of her domain. Just make sure to grow it away from here, okay? Okay. The cold-loving couple nodded in agreement. This would have saved us a lot of hassle, wouldn't it? Having listened to them for a while, Fen then moved next to Ari. For the river? The jaguar looked back at her. Yeah, but we still would run into the issue of the permanent water source and what to do with all the water downstream, because it would flood everything. True. Magic should be able to take care of that, too. Sophia faced the duo. There's no reason it can't generate and remove water at will. Ah. The two had nothing else to say. Afterward, everyone continued to make more plans to bring their biome projects to the next level. Chapter 064, The Gap Between Them. Everyone reunited in the cottage after working on their own projects and had dinner together. Afterward, Sophia told them about her cherry blossom forest and how she was planning to alter the terrain to get rid of the default flatness of her domain. Everyone else got really interested in that and also wanted to do the same with their biomes, because they didn't like how flat they were either. Hey. On the following day, after having laid the groundwork for her very blossom forest, Sophia went on a little trip. Welcome. Mira lightly greeted the blonde when she opened the door of her little lakeside hut in the middle of the jungle, inside the teal fox's own domain. What brings you here? Chloe needed Faye for something or another, and I thought I'd come and get her for our pink girl. Really? Hearing that, the fox in question quickly joined Mira's side at the door. Yup. She smiled at her. We also haven't seen you in a while either. I see. The foal nodded a few times. We plan to return later today, anyway, but do you mind if I go ahead? She then faced the teal fox. Don't let her wait. Mira gave her the okay, and Faye immediately left the hut and disappeared into the jungle from where the tiger had come earlier. She sure is something else when it comes to her baby, huh? Sophia watched the fox leave with a warm smile on her face. As one should. Mira had the same expression but then faced the blonde. Did Chloe really need her for something, or did you just try to make her leave, though? Doesn't Chloe always need her for something? She dodged the question. And? The overseer just kept staring at her. I like how sharp you are. So, what do you need me for? She saw through her actions in an instant. Just a nice little chat. What did you do? Mira didn't like how sweet-sounding her voice was. I did some more bonding with our beloved pink and purple sparkly friends, and I have questions. Ah. The teal fox paused for a moment before gesturing her inside. As I have the feeling this will take a while, how about we go and sit down somewhere comfortable? The two went into the hut and got comfortable in the cozy living room of Mira's lakeside hut. How much of my authority do I need to collect and condense for magic to manifest a body? The fox went silent for around a minute. Come again? You know what I mean. Sophia didn't believe her act of feigning ignorance. Explain how you came to that idea. I started creating my own personal biome in my domain, and I had the most amazing chat with magic while doing so. Define chat. I guessed the absolute wildest things, and my particle friends reacted to them accordingly. You're good at that. I sure am. The blonde sounded proud of herself. What did you talk about? I wanted to find how much authority I need to spend to get some terrain changes together with a few specific mutations, while also giving the sparkly ones as much freedom as possible. Once I found out a rough number, I spent an entire day pumping raw magic from the outside world into my domain through a portal by constantly converting and resetting my authority to the point I felt sore from it. She had to add a little complaint to it. When I finally stopped and returned to the area, I ended up pouring 30 times my authority into a small area. Ah. Her expression turned awkward. You know what happened next, don't you? Go on. Short. Sophia started to notice that Mira was doing her usual spiel of finding out how much exactly she knew. Once I was able to see again, by the way, being surrounded by nothing but dense sparkly particles reducing your sight to mere centimeters is quite scary, I started to notice some changes. She made a slight pause. Magic somehow had gotten a lot more talkative in a way. Like, they started using sign language. They showed me exact numbers in the air, like the 30 times my power being in the area, or reacted with thumbs up and down symbols while replying to my questions and guesses. Yeah, environmental magic starts to gain that level of ability after around 15 times your powers. I knew it. The blonde got loud. Magic's a hive mind, isn't it? The more of it there is, the higher their intelligence gets, right? Or rather, the better they're able to use and convey their intelligence. Mira stared at her for a little while before her expression eventually softened up. Close enough for the time being. What's that supposed to mean? She didn't like her reply. Not important. The overseer smiled at her. Anyway, continue. Gore. Sophia had to growl at her first, before doing so. I asked them how much of my authority I needed to release to have them talk with me, but the particles just teased me in return. They returned to simply moving up and down as if saying yes to my question, where yes wasn't an option. It's something I introduced to this world. Magic's naturally playful. Mira looked like a proud mother while saying so. I noticed. She nodded a few times. So, what's the number? How much do I need to be able to talk with the particles? Yes. The fox tried her hardest not to burst into laughter. I hate you so much right now. Come on, you should have seen that one coming. There was just no way Mira could have passed on that chance. I really should have. She looked a little embarrassed. It's a lot, by the way. The overseer sounded a little more serious. That's fine. Sophia immediately sounded motivated again. You just confirmed that it is indeed possible. That means I just have to keep pumping raw magic into my domain while also using the flora to create even more until something happens. That's the spirit. She was glad the tiger took it as a challenge rather than demotivating her. So, and with that, we're back to my question of giving magic a body. The blonde returned to her previous topic. If talking is possible at some point, that has to be, too. I don't think you want to know. Mira lightly shook her head. Why not? She disagreed with her assumption. I absolutely do. Why wouldn't I? Because I don't want to make you feel down after you're doing so well at the moment. What's that supposed to mean? Sophia got louder again. You're feeling extremely powerful because you, in the regular world, have an incredibly high authority over magic, But in absolute terms, well, she didn't finish her sentence. You don't want to give me a reality check? The blonde tilted her head. Don't worry, magic already made me understand that I'm actually quite weak by telling me just how much authority I need for the most basic looking things in my domain. Yes, you unlocked your domain extremely early, so that's quite the extra added challenge, because you don't have enough power to adequately populate it with things. Though, you have a rather useful group of friends in that regard. Steph might actually be a little too helpful. She shuddered for a moment while remembering her sister's kingdom of coldness that she was creating. Anyway, I can take it. Hit me with another reality check. If you say so. Shrugging, Mira then lifted her arm and put up the palm of her hand. A moment later, a roughly 5 centimeter wide dark purple sphere appeared on top of it. Do you know what this is? Magic? The tiger stared at it for a while. I can feel intense power from it, but why does it look like that? It's not sparkly at all. There are no particles either. It is magic, yes. The overseer nodded. The reason it looks like that is because of how condensed it is. She then lightly threw it towards Sophia. Here. It's warm. Catching it, the blonde immediately noticed the sphere's temperature. Wait, I can touch it? She only then noticed that part. How? I can see the particles of ambient magic, but I've never been able to touch them. That's what happens if you compress enough environmental magic past a certain point. Really? That's amazing. I never thought you could touch magic. So, it getting a body is definitely possible, right? Sophia took a better look at the sphere. How much magic is in that ball? Can you not feel it? Mira tilted her head. I can feel that it is a lot. Like, a lot, but I can't put it into words. She stared at it even harder. Almost as if it's telling me yes, when I try to figure out how much magic is in there. Yep, sounds about right. Yes is not an answer to my question. You're holding about 4,000 times your authority in the form of compressed ambient magic right now. Give or take a few hundred times. I want to revise my previous statement. Yes is a perfectly adequate response. Sophia then went silent for a moment. What? She looked like she went in shock over it. Ahaha. After enjoying her reaction for a moment, Mira took back the sphere and held it herself. It's quite something, isn't it? Are you serious right now? The blonde couldn't believe it. I am. Nodding once, the overseer then put her other hand over the orb to hide it from view. Seemingly concentrating for a moment, she then removed her hand again to reveal a small blue parakeet sitting on top of her palm. It was alive, too, as it curiously looked around while also chirping a few times. Tada. Eh? Sophia was usually easily able to accept new experiences and situations after coming to her new world and getting used to the changes, but this sight was enough to fully overload her. Chapter 065, Parakeet. Sophia met up with Mira, and the two talked about the blonde's newest discoveries about magic. Wanting to find out if and how the expressive magic particles she loves so much can acquire a physical body, the many-tailed fox eventually caved in and showed the blonde what environmental magic can transform into under the right conditions. Learning what those conditions are only made Sophia even more aware of how little her powers really are, though, as the overseer just casually used 4,000 times the tiger's power to create a small bird from magic. You okay? Mira smiled at the tiger while she was gently petting the blue parakeet she just created. I don't think so. Sophia lightly shook her head. When did the power scaling get that out of hand? It's always been like that. The teal fox kept smiling. I told you before that your personal authority is nowhere close to becoming an overseer. I know, but 4,000 times my magic just like that? She looked quite dejected. I don't even feel like you radiate any noticeable less power now after doing that. Because I don't. Ah. But, to be fair, I'm a special case in that regard. Mira didn't like her looking like that. You do remember that I'm the overseer of magic, right? I have near limitless authority over it. You would have noticed a dent in Kinnear's powers if he had done this. She gestured at the bird. Though, yes, it would be a small dent. That does make it better. Sophia started to cheer up. Wait. She then got loud. Fen and I almost destroyed a country when we combined our authority and caused magic to go out of control. If that little sphere had that much power, then... Oh, yeah, the planet would simply stop existing if that orb would react with anything. Don't sound so nonchalant while saying it. The blonde got even louder. Don't worry, environmental magic can only reach a certain density in the regular world. Mira lightly waved her hand. The accident you and Fen had only happened because your blank authority, given by Kinnear, can overrule those limitations. No one besides you and the big boss can push magic over the dangerous threshold density in the outside world. Well, I can, too, but only because I can change rules. She made a slight pause while scratching her cheek. Domains are a different story, though. Magic has more freedom there. It's less reactive to go supernova, too. In a way, domains are like a holiday for it where it can let loose. Especially when a certain someone noticed one of magic's biggest secrets and told them to explicitly have fun. Ehe. Sophia liked the last part. Also, I see. She nodded a few times. Very reassuring, too. The tiger was glad that the world she came to love wouldn't so easily explode, after all. Does that mean I have to take care that no one explodes my domain? Ari and Maya already threatened me with it, but it seems it might actually be possible if they collect some excess raw magic. They can't. Mira shook her head. The owner of the domain has the highest authority over it. If you don't want it to explode, it won't. Even I wouldn't be able to tell magic to go ahead and destroy your place. You love to hear it. You can explode your own domain, though. The overseer stared right at her. Especially when you play around with environmental magic density without knowing what you're doing. She froze for a moment. Can't I just have a nice chat with magic and tell them to not explode my domain even when I mess up? That would work. Mira just nodded. That was easy. You, as the domain owner, can set up your own rules, and magic will abide by them as long as they don't contradict a superior rule. She added a little extra explanation to it. It certainly also helps that you can communicate directly with them to get your full and uninterpreted intention across. I did have some troubles with misinterpretations in the past. I know. The teal fox smiled at her. Knowing you, you will continue to do so in the future, too. You're the textbook example of act first, think later, after all. Guilty as charged. There was no way she could talk back here. If thinking is involved at all. Anyway, yeah, you should probably do that, telling magic to preserve your domain when you continue to play around like you do. That will be the first thing I do when I get back. Good. Speaking of anyway, Sophia thought it was time to change the topic and pointed at the blue parakeet that had gotten comfortable on Mira's shoulder while they were talking. Hypothetically speaking, if I managed to somehow amass 4,000 times my authority and compress it like that ball from earlier, could I do that, too? Yes. She simply nodded. Let's go. That was all the tiger wanted to hear. It's great that you bounce back so easily. By the way, what is that bird? The blonde pointed at Mira's shoulder once more, causing the bird to turn its neck to look back at her. It also let out a small chirp while doing so. It's a parakeet. Mira lightly tilted her head. Curiously enough, the bid did the same. A blue one. I can see that. Sophia let out a small sigh. It looks like a bird, acts like a bird, and sounds like a bird. Because it is a bird. The overseer nodded. A parakeet. As I said, I can see that. The blonde didn't like that side of her. You created it with magic. Does that mean it's a magic bird? It's a bird that can use magic. Mira's wording was a little different. Show her. She then turned her head to glance at the bird on her shoulder. The blue parakeet then flapped its wings once, and a strong gust of wind, way more powerful than it should be able to, hit the tiger full on. Whoa! Sophia's eyes grew wide as she hadn't expected that. Wait, why am I surprised? It's a being made with magic. It would be weirder if it couldn't use it. That is correct. Mira nodded. Other than that, it's an entirely normal bird. Well, aside from the part where it's highly intelligent. Magic can even create life? The blonde raised her voice once more. I mean, technically speaking, flora like trees is alive, too. Also, have you forgotten about blessing magic? It's a natural process, but you still create new life with the help of magic, just with a few extra steps. Okay, that's actually different, more of a conversion into reproductive cells based on your DNA, but you get the gist. The overseer scratched her cheek. Anyway, elemental magic has its name for a reason. We all are nothing but elements, either, so it naturally can do that, too. Although, even small birds like this one here are highly complex creatures, and that's the reason they're so expensive to make. She added some more details. The sentient side of magic will then take care of the, well, sentient side of the creature. Wow. Sophia didn't know how else to react. Wait. Are griffins also born from magic, then? They're the only animals I've met so far that could use magic. Well, I mean, Fen and the others are in their own category. No, griffins are just intelligent enough to understand how to use magic and are granted authority. Any living being past a certain threshold can use it to some level. Ah, I see. She thought she was onto something there, but it turned out to be nothing. I'm not sure if I want to know, but a griffin that was created from magic would have been a lot more expensive than the 4,000 times for the parakeet, right? That's probably how it works, isn't it? Much more. The overseer's expression turned a little mischievous. I shouldn't have asked. She quickly shook her head. Let's do something nicer instead. Saying so, the blonde's arm disappeared into one of her small portals, and she pulled a small brown bag out of her storage on the other side. If it's a real bird, it should love these, right? Opening the bag, she then poured a couple of sunflower seeds out of it on top of her open palm. Here. She presented it to the parakeet, which then quickly left Mira's shoulder to fly over to Sophia and landed on her hand. There, it immediately started munching on the seeds. Why do you have sunflower seeds just ready like that in your storage? Mira was surprised by their sudden appearance. Why not? The tiger tilted her head in return. Okay, fair enough. She could find no fault in her reasoning. It really is just a parakeet, huh? She watched the bird that was happily eating the seeds while sitting in the palm of her hand. Aside from the part where it feels super strong. Well, yeah, it could easily beat you up. The teal fox smiled at her. Eh? It could? With big eyes, Sophia stared at the bird. Responding to that, it let go of the seeds for a moment, looked back at the tiger, nodded slightly, and then returned to focus on the treat. So smug. She couldn't believe the bird's reaction. So cute, though. Yes, adorable creatures acting smug always is a sight for sore eyes. Mira agreed. Why did you look at me just now? Hee hee. The overseer just continued to smile at the blonde. It could beat me, huh? Sophia went back to staring at the bird. You and everyone else in your group. She nodded. At once. You're way too overpowered. The tiger addressed the parakeet, who in return nodded once more before eating some more seeds. How intelligent is it really, though? It can obviously understand what I'm saying. You can interact with it the same way you do with the high-density magic particles. It's still not at the level where it can talk with you, though. Mira added some details. Still no talking, huh? Hearing the blonde, the bird looked up again while shaking its head. Well, even so, that's amazing. She wasn't that bothered by it. It still means I could get a permanent magic friend that I could interact with even when the concentration of ambient magic is too low, right? The parakeet nodded a few times in return. Yes. Mira also confirmed it. It can also be used to relay your intended use of magic to get a better efficiency and clearer vision of your plan through explaining it to it. You're amazing. Best bird friend ever. Sophia had nothing but praise for the bird as she smiled at it. Responding to that, the bird did a little dance on top of the tiger's hand. Are you happy that I called you friend, or do you want my attention because you ate all the sunflower seeds and want more? The blonde noticed that they were all gone. Hearing that, the parakeet nodded a few times. Magic really has taken a liking to my stupid yes reply to a question where it's not an option, huh? Sophia awkwardly looked at the teal fox. It appears so. Afterward, Sophia fed it some more seed and even added a bit of variety as she had a whole range of them in her storage. She also interacted with it some more to make sure to befriend it properly. Chapter 066, Creative Naming. Mira successfully broke a little of Sophia's worldview by showing her just how powerful magic can be and how limited the tiger still was. Once she got over it and learned a lot, the blonde did her best to befriend the parakeet the overseer created with magic because she already liked it a lot. Can magic birds get fat? Sophia was still watching the blue parakeet sitting on her hand, munching away one seed after another with rapid speed. Hearing that, the bird lifted its head and slowly shook it from side to side while looking at the blonde. Immediately after, it focused on the food again. It can, by the way. Mira also shook her head as she glanced at the parakeet. Noticing that it got called out, the bird froze. It still swallowed the seed in its mouth, though. Again, physically, it has become a regular bird. I love this little guy. The tiger gently patted the bird's head because she was a big fan of how expressive it was. Don't worry, you won't get fat if you overeat on a single day. She smiled at the parakeet. You can also just fly around a lot later for exercise. The moment she said these words, the bird immediately returned to happily eating the seeds at an even faster pace. Don't spoil it too much. Mira didn't approve of it. But Blue's too adorable not to spoil. Sophia started pouting. Blue? Mira tilted her head. Curiously enough, the bird did the same motion while still swallowing a seed. The parakeet's name. She sounded a little excited. I'm not good with names, so I went for something rather, obvious, but Blue's still a cute name, right? The tiger looked at the bird for confirmation. Seemingly thinking about it for a moment, it then flapped its wings, took flight, and circled around the blonde a few times before landing on her shoulder. There, it went ahead and rubbed its head against the side of Sophia's cheek. I guess that's a yes on the name. Mira didn't need to think too hard about interpreting the reaction. The blonde started smiling broadly. Nice to meet you, Blue. Seemingly at least as happy about it, the bird rubbed his head even stronger against Sophia's cheek while also chirping a couple of times. Your ability to form bonds so quickly and deeply is most fascinating. The overseer stared at the tiger while occasionally glancing at Blue on her shoulder. I'm trying my best. She sounded incredibly happy while saying so. Alright, I guess that's a good stopping point to head home, though. After all, I still need to check what magic did with my cherry blossom biome. Sophia thought she learned enough for one day. Afterward, I'll proceed to constantly flood my domain with my authority from the outside for the next months to get ever so slightly closer to some bigger stuff. She sounded tired already. At least I have Blue now to play with and get to know magic even better. Hearing that, the bird nodded a few times while chirping happily. What makes you think Blue can come with you? Because we're friends. The blonde's reasoning was simple. That doesn't really matter. Blue, do you want to come to my domain? Sophia addressed the bird directly. It's not as fancy as here, but I allowed magic to do whatever it wants. There are only two rules, not blowing up my domain, and big creations should be cute. Other than that, everyone can do whatever they want. Sounds great, doesn't it? We can become even better friends, too. Listening to her, Blue then lifted one wing in the air while still nodding and chirping in an even happier tone. You're not going to deny Blue's wish, are you? You are the worst. The teal fox eventually gave up when she couldn't bear the sad-looking expression on Blue any longer and glared at the tiger one last time. I know. Do not tell the others that I created it and also not how strong it really is. They'll notice that it can beat all of them easily, but let's not mention the times multiple thousand multiplier. Okay. Both nodded a couple of times. Let's go, Blue. Watching the bird lift its wing again while still sitting on her shoulder, Sophia opened one of her portals and stepped through it. Letting out a sigh, Mira then also followed after her. Oh. They headed directly to the cherry blossom biome, and Sophia immediately got excited when she saw the countless cherry trees around them. It was impossible to tell just how many there were because the tiger would need to be on an elevated area to get an overview, but magic definitely held word and created countless cherry blossoms. Even more weeping cherries, too. Just like the blonde had asked for. Even though they couldn't see very far, it was already noticeable that the terrain wasn't just flat, either. This pink goodness never gets old. Mira also seemed to like the area. I know, right? The blonde nodded a few times. Noticing their arrival, countless pink and purple particles appeared from all over the forest and circled around the duo before forming into a cloud in front of them. Seeing them, Blue left Sophia's shoulder, and it flew through the cloud a couple of times as if greeting them before returning to the tiger. Sophia gently patted Blue's head before focusing on the cloud. It looks amazing. She immediately started praising them. The first impression is exactly how I imagined it to be. I really need to find a way to see it from above because it's mostly just pink around here, too. I want to see if it changes color along the way. A few moments after saying that, a portal suddenly appeared in front of her while some of the magic particles swirled around it. Oh? Mira's ears perked up. It's rare for magic to be that eager. It is? The blonde tilted her head. I have yet to see them not eager. As she said so, the particles sped up and got behind her while trying to push Sophia through the portal. See? It rarely gets this excited with me. Maybe magic just likes me more than you dot. The tiger's voice got incredibly smug. There's no way that's true, right? The overseer looked around, but every single particle froze for a second or two. Even Blue on Sophia's shoulder just turned its head away. Hey! Mira raised her voice. Everyone, explain that reaction just now. Magic's rebelling against their master, huh? Sophia only got smugger. Hey! The teal fox glared at her. Also, I just created you, Blue, and that's how you thank me? Dot. She liked the reaction. Anyway, I'm sure they're just excited that they can play around in my domain so much. After all, there are next to no rules except not blowing up the place entirely and my preference for cute things. I'm sure you, as the overseer, imposed more rules to your domain to keep things balanced, right? Agreeing with her explanation, Blue nodded again while the particles also started moving up and down. I see. Mira paused for a moment. So, Sophia's the cool aunt that lets you do whatever you want when you visit her, knowing that you have to behave at home, huh? She looked right at the parakeet on Sophia's shoulder, which only turned its head away in return. Oh. Hearing that analogy, Sophia's face lit up. I like that. Alright, magic, from now on, I'm your cool aunt. Welcoming her to the family, Blue did a little dance on the tiger's shoulder while all the particles rapidly swirled around her. I wasn't being Sari Dash, well, whatever. The overseer let out a sigh. Sure, why not? She gave up. Alright, let's go to wherever this leads. Energetically raising her arm, the tiger then stepped through the portal magic had provided for her. Sure. Mira followed after her. Wow. Arriving on the other side, Sophia got even more excited. The portal led to a floating island roughly 500 meters above the forest. It was around 50 meters in diameter and had a massive weeping cherry in its very center, with the leaves and branches spanning over the entire island, providing a nice protection from the usual all white around them. Under the tree, attached to two low-hanging branches, was also a hammock, together with a small river flowing from one end of the island to the other. The water then simply fell off the sides and rained down on the forest below like a small waterfall. I guess I'm moving out of the cottage. This place is way better. It really is a very beautiful place. The teal fox also agreed. Also, the tiger raised her voice even more. Floating island. How? I love how short and precise you are. Mira let out a small chuckle. As usual, the answer is magic. Making something float is an easy feat for it. I see. Sophia decided that she wouldn't question it and just nodded. I should have known that earlier, though. I love it. Magic, suggestion for the future. Floating cherry island all over the place. She addressed the pink and purple particles around her, who then immediately started moving up and down. Also, thank you very much for making this place for me so that I can get a good look at everything. The particles got even more active after hearing that. Yeah, it's really no surprise that they like you so much. Though she had some mixed feelings on a few earlier events, Mira couldn't help but smile at their exchange. Ehe. Sophia let out a short giggle before continuing. Okay, I already got a small glimpse, but let's get a better look. Saying so, she walked over to the edge of the island and looked down. Also, we need to add some guardrails here. She got a little uneasy about the 500-meter drop without any protection. Ignoring the safety hazard for the time being, she then focused on the forest below them. Thanks to being on such an elevated point and her domain being flat, she could look on forever, but even then, the blonde wasn't able to see the edge of the vast forest as her eyesight gave out before the cherries did. She could clearly see that 2/3 of the trees were weeping cherries while the rest were of the regular kind, just as she wanted it to be. The terrain had been visibly altered, too. Instead of everything being flat, there were some actual mountains or at least hills, valleys, a few plains, and even rivers all over the place. The tiger could even spot a few smaller lakes the rivers fed into and something that looked like a massive ravine in the far distance, splitting a part of the land. The most striking feature was the color shift of the whole forest, though. Just as she had asked for, the trees came in many shades of white, violet, pink, and purple, almost leading to a full red. The change happened in a nice gradient, too. Instead of dark purple trees being right next to light violet ones, the white cherries slowly turned into a light pink, normal pink, darker pink, light purple, and so on. The same happened with the violet and other hues. Oh ho! Mira walked up next to her and also took in the sights. That's no good. She shook her head after a little while. Why? She didn't like her reaction. This cherry blossom biome might be more impressive than all the ones I have combined. It's absolutely stunning without being obnoxious or too oversized and mutated. The overseer paused for a moment. I can't let that slide. We did it, magic. Hearing that, Sophia's eyes started sparkling. We made the boss jealous. Even the particles around her somehow seemed smug about it. I really am the cool ant here. Why do I feel the urge to give you a little push right now? The teal fox looked over the edge of the island, down towards the forest, before glancing at the tiger beside her. Try it. Sophia took a stance against her. You were the one who said you can't beat me in my own domain, so I'm looking forward to testing that out. That's the reason we're both still up here right now. Mira smiled back at her. Not that either of us would get even a scratch by falling down from up here, anyway. Also, this is no place for violence. The blonde ended the topic. Good call. The overseer nodded. Afterward, once things calmed down, mostly Sophia having grown tired of her teasing and smugness, they simply enjoyed the beautiful area for a while longer. Chapter 067, Blue. Sophia befriended the blue parakeet Mira created with magic and decided to call it Blue. While it wasn't the most creative name, the blonde thought it was cute, and that was all that mattered. Once that was taken care of, she, Mira, and Blue went to the tiger's domain to inspect the new cherry blossom biome. Arriving there, everything turned out just as the blonde had hoped it to be, but she was especially excited over the floating island above the forest that magic had created as an observation platform for Sophia. By the way, the blonde and Mira were still on the floating island when Sophia patted Blue's head after he returned to her shoulder while the tiger looked at the overseer. I'm fine with not telling the others what Blue really is. I'm not lying if I simply say I found an amazing bird in your domain, after all, but I can still introduce Blue to the group, right? That's all right. Mira nodded. While pure animals that can use magic, especially smaller ones like birds, are rare, it's not unheard of. Nobody should expect anything there, especially when it came out of my domain. Perfect. Sophia clapped her hands. Everyone will love you, Blue. She immediately returned to patting the parakeet's head. Speaking of everyone, let's go and get them. They need to see this. Do they need to see this, or do you need to boast about it? The teal fox raised an eyebrow. Yes. Seemingly in a good mood, the tiger then quickly made yet another portal and stepped through it. If there's one thing's for sure, it's that it doesn't get boring with her around. Not entirely sure how to feel about it, Mira then also followed after her. Sophia. Mira. Back in the cottage, Chloe happened to be in the entrance hall and greeted them. Bird? Cute. She saw Blue on the blonde's shoulder. Wait, later. She seemed to be in a hurry. What's wrong? Sophia was confused over her twitchy acting. Toilet. She had a very good explanation. Also, thank you very much for bringing Fei back. I hadn't even noticed that you overheard me needing her. After saying that, the pink fox disappeared into the bathroom. Your daughter is something else. Sophia wasn't sure what else to say. Mira just nodded. Also, you really weren't lying earlier when you made Faye leave to talk alone with me in my domain, huh? I have no idea what Chloe was talking about just now. She shook her head in return. I should have known. The overseer rolled her eyes. To the living room. Ignoring her, Sophia then started walking again and entered said room. I love that bird. Everyone except Chloe was in the living room, and Steph immediately noticed the little parakeet on Sophia's shoulder. It really is cute. Ari, Anna, and Maya had the same reaction, too. Faye and the wolves seemed to have noticed something about it as all three were staring at it with an oddly serious aura around them. This is Blue. Sophia focused on the girls while giving the bird a gentle head pat. I came across it in Mira's domain, and we became friends. So good friends that it's staying with me now. Blue? The dog girl tilted her head. Come on, sis, I know that your naming sense is basic, but that's a little too on the nose, even for you. Don't you feel sorry? WWHOA. The moment she finished her sentence, Blue flapped its wings and hit her with a strong blow of wind that knocked her over. Blue can use magic, by the way. The blonde grinned at her. It also likes my name a whole lot. That's amazing. Steph bounced right back up. I take everything back. While it may be a simple name, simple is best. She smiled at Blue. It's a great name. Thank you very much. Sophia also was glad that she reconsidered. All right, I'm back. That was a close call. Looking visibly relieved, Chloe returned and joined the others in the living room. So, now that I'm not preoccupied any longer, why does Sophia have a bird with so much magic authority that it could beat all of us up? Like, it wouldn't even be close to a fight, I want to add. It's SEVERAL times stronger. Like, triple digits or even more. She stared right at Blue. Mira excluded, of course. Sophia, Mira, and Blue froze. That's what felt so odd about it. Faye and the wolves had the same reaction. You hadn't factored in that your daughter is dangerously sharp about these kinds of things, huh? The blonde glanced at the overseer. I might have not, yes. She nodded slightly. How were you able to notice? The teal fox looked at her daughter. I'm not stupid, you know? I do know. It wasn't what Mira was implying. No, you should only be able to feel that Blue is strong, but not how strong, because the difference is too big. And how would that not lead to the conclusion I came to? The pink fox tilted her head. Yeah, sure, I can't see how strong it is, but it vastly overshadows Sophia's feel as it's sitting on her shoulder. I guess I was the stupid one here. Mira had nothing else to say. You aren't the wisest of overseers, aren't you? Sophia rolled her eyes. Thankfully, that's not a requirement for being one. She awkwardly rubbed her cheek in return. I mean, look at Kinnear. Well, you win that argument. The short tiger had to give it to her. So, what or who is this cute bird? Chloe got back to the topic. It's blue. Sophia smiled at her while the parakeet nodded a few times. So cute. The pink fox liked that. Such a fitting name, too. Simple and easy to remember, but adorable at the same time. And that's why you're the best. The blonde gave her a thumbs up before facing her sister with a smug expression. What are you grinning at me for? Steph looked back at her. I know that my Chloe is the absolute best. Dot. The pink fox got happy over that. So, I want to know more about our lovely blue. Where did you find such a powerful bird? Also, I thought only bigger animals could use magic? I came across it in Mira's domain, and we immediately bonded. Though omitting some crucial details, Sophia did her special and technically didn't lie. Oh. Chloe nodded a few times. Then, it makes perfect sense for such an overpowered bird to exist. I mean, her domain is overflowing with magic, more than enough to affect even animals, I guess. Sure. The blonde just agreed with her. There are quite a few animals in my domain that can use magic. Mira did the same. It really is cute, but isn't it dangerous to have such a powerful animal around us? Ari wasn't quite sure how to feel about their new friend yet. Are you dangerous, Blue? Sophia turned her head to the side to glance at the parakeet on her shoulder, which then quickly shook its head in return. See? The blonde smiled at Ari. How is it able to understand you? She only got more confused. Blue's a clever one. The short tiger sounded oddly proud while the bird continued to nod. Animals that can use magic usually are more intelligent, too. Mira added some vague extra information. Also, no, Blue isn't dangerous to any of you as long you don't attack first. That's very reassuring. The jaguar looked relieved. Well then, welcome to the group, Blue. Once she knew that it wasn't dangerous, Ari was completely on board. Hearing that she accepted the bird in their circle, Blue flew over to Ari and landed on her shoulder instead. There, it gently rubbed its head against the side of her cheek. So cute. She liked the bird even more now and started to gently pet its head. Blue's good. Sophia seemed impressed. To win over our jaguar so easily. True. Everyone agreed. Hey. Ari raised her voice. I'm weak to cute things, and Blue is way too powerful in that regard. No, I'm not talking about his magic here either. Fair. The short tiger couldn't fault her logic. True and real, too. Unfair. Seeing how Ari was already bonding with Blue before they got the chance, the other girls got envious of her. Me, too. They unionized as they watched the parakeet rubbing its head against the jaguar's cheek. Noticing what they wanted, Blue eventually left the jaguar's shoulder and introduced itself to Anna, Maya, Steph, and Chloe in the same manner before eventually returning to Sophia. Alright, with that taken care of, there's something I need to show everyone. The blonde got very excited. There's something you need to boast about, you mean? Mira corrected her. Same difference. She didn't care. Anyway, everyone, I'm really proud of the biomes you created so far. The short tiger smiled at the group. Even you, Steph. Hey. The dog girl didn't like being singled out like that. My biome's the best. Let's see if you still say that once we take a peek at my new benchmark for area creation. I like how humble you are. Mira gave her a sarcastic thumbs up. It made even you jealous. Sophia looked back at her. I have all the bragging rights here. The teal fox quickly turned down her sass. Let's go. The blonde energetically raised her arm, and so did Blue with his wing on her shoulder. Be prepared to be amazed. I'll prepare to nitpick on every single odd detail I find. Steph was still upset about her sister's earlier remark. Good luck with that. Knowing just how amazing her cherry blossom forest turned out, her expression turned rather smug. Afterward, the short tiger guided them outside and through the portal leading to the floating island above her biome for maximum effect. It didn't seem like the dog girl would be able to nitpick because her jaw dropped the moment she arrived there. Chapter 068, Sturdy. Blue was introduced to the rest of the group, but Mira's wish to keep its real powers hidden was busted the moment her daughter took as much as a single glance at it. Chloe instantly noticed that Blue was beyond powerful, but she luckily bought the excuse of it just being a random bird from her domain because she could see how the teal fox's place was full of animals like the parakeet. Afterward, Sophia took everyone to the floating island of her newly created cherry blossom biome because she got the overwhelming urge to boast about it. After all, she can't function without being at the center of attention at least once a day. How? Steph was the first to react when she realized that they were on a floating island as she glanced down at the side of it. How does it float? Magic, of course. Sophia smiled at her. It's quite easy to make things float with it. It is? Her sister got even louder. You didn't know about it? The blonde got even smugger about it. I didn't. Don't worry, Mira smiled at Steph. Sophia was even more surprised than you are right now when she first saw it earlier. There was no need to mention that part. She glared at her in return. Huh. The dog girl's expression turned into a smirk. Wait, if she didn't know about it, how did Sophia do it, then? Chloe tilted her head. Sophia created the area, right? That means she should have wanted this floating island to happen, doesn't it? Well, the short tiger scratched her cheek. I wanted a viewing platform to overlook the forest and take in its whole glory. Magic interpreted that into this. She simply gestured around. Ah, I see. The pink fox nodded a few times. Your ambiguity when it comes to using magic really leads to the most amazing results. Circumstances aside, I think I have to admit defeat, though. Steph was looking down the island and at the cherry blossom forest below again. Even the palace area of my kingdom of eternal coldness looks like slums compared to your biome. There's a palace area in your hellscape? The blonde didn't like those words. I was planning one before, but I need to redo everything. The dog girl raised her voice. I was playing things way too safe. I need to get way more extreme. Now I have a benchmark and have to respond accordingly. You really don't have to. Sophia shook her head. Your ice hell is fine the way it is. She hated it enough already, after all. Too late. I'm already fired up. There was no stopping her any longer. Chloe, you'll still help me fill our kingdom with raw magic, right? I'll not only help you, but I'll also make sure to help you surpass her creation. She was just as motivated. You're the best. That being said, the pink fox also moved to the edge of the island. It is amazingly beautiful. Thank you very much. Sophia was happy to hear that. I absolutely love how it came out. You have all the reasons to be proud. Chloe smiled at her. I don't think it's possible to make a better cherry blossom forest than this. It's simply perfect. Yeah, Steph nodded. I still love all things pink more, though. No one can beat me in that regard. She kept glancing at Chloe. Are you sure about that? Sophia smirked at her before pointing down the island. I think my love for pink burns a little hotter than yours. Never. Raising her voice, the dog girl then leaned over to Chloe and gave her a quick kiss on her cheek. The blonde tilted her head before glancing at Maya. Cheek is fine. The cat girl gave her a thumbs up. See? Sophia then also leaned over and kissed Chloe's other cheek. It was a lot lighter than Steph's, though. Your dedication to pink is lacking. Gore. The little sister wasn't a fan of losing, so this time, she wrapped her arms around the fox's neck, pulled her close, and gave her a full kiss on the lips. It is not. She stared at the short tiger with a serious expression after parting. Sophia paused for a moment. Then, she shook her head and started smiling. Fine, your dedication to Chloe is slightly bigger than mine is. How about that? I'm not happy, but it's a compromise I can accept. Our daughter sure is popular, huh? Mira smiled at Faye next to her while watching their exchange. Not happy. The full fox shook her head. Especially when she's popular with those chaotic sisters. She's popular with all of us girls, though. Maya decided that she didn't want to help. Yes. Ari and Anna felt the same. Ehe. Chloe got even happier. Also, our girl is about as chaotic as the sisters. Not helping. Faye raised her voice. All of you, I want to add. Once they were done lightly flirting with Chloe, Anna, Ari, and Maya slowly went closer to the edge of the floating island. Is it, really safe? They didn't feel like wanting to fall down. I'll catch you if any of you trip. Sophia smiled at the trio. That's not necessarily overly help. WOAH. The jaguar wanted to complain about her reply, but she had a very different reaction once she was close enough to the edge to see the cherry blossom forest below in all its glory. Whoa. The other two felt the same. That's exactly the reaction I wanted. The blonde was a big fan of the exchange. I'm glad you all like it. This is absolutely gorgeous. Maya praised her some more. Almost as beautiful as the things we did while you were getting your magic ready for this. Ahaha. Sophia had to chuckle at this very typical response. True, though. It is indeed very stunning. Ari and Anna nodded a few times. How about some railing on this island, though? They were still not fans of standing so close to the edge. It makes you nervous, doesn't it? The short tiger agreed with them. It's on the list. I want to go down. Steph got excited. How do we do that? Jump? Sure, go ahead. Sophia pointed down the edge. How about no? The other girls had something against that idea. Don't worry, Steph's pretty sturdy, Faye reassured them. A small drop like that won't hurt her. Yeah. The dog girl nodded. And she would know, after all. Exactly. The full fox nodded. How would she know that you won't get hurt from such a height? Chloe got loud. Who knows? Both decided to feign ignorance. Oi. The pink fox raised her voice even more. From now on, the two of you aren't allowed to do any of your little training sessions without supervision. Ah. The duo had nothing else to say. Do I count as supervision? Sophia pointed at herself. I'm getting really curious about what the two are up to all the time and how Steph became fireproof, among other things. No. Ari immediately shot her down. I don't even want to imagine the consequences there. Faye and I mostly train in Mira's domain, so the consequences are minimal. Steph smiled at her. Oh. The jaguar's expression changed. If that's how it is, Sophia definitely counts as supervision. Everything that powers her out from going crazy in the regular world is a good thing. Nice. The blonde was happy to get the permission in the end. Only I count as supervision. The pink fox thought otherwise. The supervision is meant to keep Steph from gaining even more questionable features. She was concerned about her girlfriend. Ah. If you want to, I can show you the things Steph and I usually do. Faye looked at the disappointed tiger. Just the two of us have some nice training together. Oh, I don't care about that. Chloe started smiling again. Go wild, you too. A little more love for the older sister would be appreciated. Sophia didn't like how fast her attitude changed. I love you a whole lot, but I also know that Kinnear went so wild with you that you're basically indestructible. Missing love wasn't the issue. She simply had complete faith in her survival rate when paired with Faye. Oh, okay, fair enough. The short tiger looked relieved. I mean, I even kissed you earlier and all that, so that would have been quite the shock. And I enjoyed that a lot. Wording. Ari shook her head while listening to them. You're the last who's allowed to make comments on that. Multiple people in the group immediately retorted when they heard the jaguar's words. She awkwardly turned her head to the side because there was nothing she could say to defend herself. I'll think about it. Sophia smiled back at Faye. I definitely want to try it someday. Anytime you're ready to learn some manners and restraint. The Ful's voice was full of smugness. I don't think Steph learned either so far, though. The blonde glanced at her sister while tilting her head. Nope. She just gave her a thumbs up in return. Well, even though she started saying something, Faye didn't finish her sentence. Alright, let's go down already. I want to see the forest up close. Steph returned to her previous request. Sophia, portal please. Sure thing. Doing as told, the short tiger created a portal that led towards the actual cherry blossom forest and gestured the group to go through it before following after them, as well. Chapter 069, Nice. Sophia took the group to the floating island towering over the cherry blossom forest she created with the help of magic. Everyone was very surprised over just how massive and beautiful the area had turned out to be. They were also big fans of the island itself, but the group decided to take a portal down to the actual forest to take a better look at the nice area there instead. Nice. Steph got excited the moment they entered the forest below the floating island. It's so nice down here. The trees are just perfect. Not over the top big, but dense enough to fully block out your stupid all-white default design. No one liked the standard color of it. You don't even realize that you're not in a normal world around here. It's nice and peaceful out here and great for relaxing. It's nice how the terrain changes. Fen was also looking around. I prefer my forest because it's made after my preferences, but I'm starting to dislike how flat the area is there. Yeah, having some hills and drops in the area is a lot nicer, huh? Ari nodded a few times. I guess we have to do some remodeling in your forest, after all? She smiled at the male wolf. I'm not entirely sure. He paused for a moment. Yes, it is a little boring, but I still think we made a nice area together. I wouldn't want to destroy it. Ehe. Ari liked his reply. Oh. How about we treat our current area as a nice plateau and create a more mountainous terrain around it? Oh, that's a nice idea. Fen liked her suggestion a lot. We should give that a try. Okay. I have to admit that it's indeed a nice forest you have created here. Even Faye seemed impressed. It's surprisingly tasteful. Hey. The blonde didn't appreciate her wording. What? The fool tilted her head. You aren't exactly known for understatement, are you? She paused for a second. Fair enough. I can only agree with everyone else, you made a very nice space here. The cat girl also liked the creation. I can't wait to spend a lot of time here. The varying colors of the cherries are especially nice in my eyes. Oh, speaking of that. Anna joined the conversation. Can we get one of the dark purple weeping cherries at the cottage? If possible, right in front of the window of Ari's and my room. They look so nice, and I'd love to wake up to that sight outside the window every morning. I fully support this nice suggestion. The jaguar nodded a few times. Sure thing. Thanks. The royal couple was happy to hear it. By the way, is there a 69 joke I missed, or why are we saying nice so often right now? Sophia tilted her head as she noticed a curious pattern in their current conversation. What are you talking about? Maya looked back at her. We're just praising your nice creation here. Really? You know that I don't joke about 69. Her voice turned serious. It's not a joke, but an amazing activity, after all. Huh, the blonde had nothing else to say there. Sure, it is nice. She decided to join them. What is? The cat girl had to do it. Your forest or 69? Yes. Hee. It was exactly what Maya wanted to hear. You're right, it is very nice. All the hybrid girls except Mira agreed with the blonde. We're rather horny today again, huh? Sophia reacted with a wry smile while looking at all of them. Once they finished playing around with that topic, the girls eventually got back on track and refocused their attention on the cherry blossom forest. By the way, where are the hot springs at? Steph was looking around in the area again. You promised me there would be hot springs. You can't have a forest like this without them, after all. Sophia's expression turned a little awkward. How could you? The dog girl didn't like her sister's reaction. This place just came into existence. I didn't have the opportunity to make anything specific yet. Boo. She didn't accept her excuse. Boo. Maya felt the same. We already have a hot spring at home. You don't have to be so horny for a new one. We do. Steph and the cat girl disagreed. It would be much better here. I do kind of agree with the perverts here. Ari nodded a few times. We knew we could count on number 3 on the pervert list for that. The duo smiled at the jaguar. That's not what I meant. She got loud. I just wanted to say that the atmosphere here is better. The cherry blossoms make for a much more beautiful backdrop. Sophia reacted with a sigh. Alright, fine, I'll get to dash, She noticed that the parakeet on her shoulder was getting lively as it flapped its wings while also chirping a couple of times. What is it, Blue? The bird then took off from her shoulder and flew into the forest while continuing to chirp even louder. Does Blue want us to follow? Chloe took a wild guess. It appears so? The blonde had no better explanation either. Or it got so angry with you that there are no hot springs here that it had to leave. Steph was still upset about it. Very likely. Maya agreed with her. I'll go with Chloe's suggestion. Sophia glared at the duo before continuing. Let's go and follow Blue. Afterward, she immediately started walking in the direction the parakeet had flown before the others eventually followed after her. The blonde also ignored the fact that Maya and Steph high-fived before they moved. The group followed Blue through the forest for about 15 minutes before it eventually landed on a branch of a tree in front of something a little bit different. Oh. Noticing where they had ended up, Steph's eyes immediately lit up. So there was one, after all. Let's go. Blue had guided them to a small area of cherry blossoms that actually had a hot spring. Steam rose from the roughly 10 by 8 meter wide oval-shaped pond, which seemed to be naturally formed and lined with gray rocks around the entire edge and inside, as well. Amazing. Maya felt the same. The whole area was slightly elevated and carved into a small mountain. On the far side, where the hill ascended further up, hot water was flowing down the rocks and into the pond, constantly renewing the water in the hot spring while causing it to overflow on the other end, where it then ran downhill before disappearing into the ground. While it was easy to see the elevation, it was still impossible to take a look at the mountain itself, though. The pink weeping cherries and regular cherry blossom trees around the hot spring made it impossible to see far into the distance, or up, for that matter. Not that any of them felt the need to look anywhere else in the first place. Well, that solves that issue. Sophia then tapped her shoulder a few times, and Blue quickly flew over again to land it. Thank you. She gently patted the bird's head afterward. Wait, how did it know? Chloe stared at the bird. Because Blue's amazing. The short tiger had an easy explanation. Yes, I agree. The pink fox didn't have an issue with that part. How and why, though? If you're amazing, you're amazing. Sophia had no intention of being helpful anytime soon. Mira, explanation please. Chloe went for a more useful source of information instead. Blue's amazing. The overseer didn't feel like helping either. Sophia's entirely correct on her deduction. If you're amazing, you're amazing. Naturally, she didn't want them to know the actual reason. Blue having a connection with ambient magic and knowing it had made a hot spring for the blonde tiger because they were aware she wanted one, that is. Gore. Her daughter did not appreciate it. Fei, do you have an explanation for me? She then turned to her actually reliable other mother for help. I can only take a guess here. The fool wasn't exactly sure what to tell her, either. I do have some experience with the animals in our many-tailed idiots domain, though. Most of them are able to use magic to some capability, and the higher their proficiency, the more intelligent and clever they seem. Blue seems especially quick on the uptake, so I guess it's not impossible for it to have some special abilities or something along the lines. I mean, it has, Mira excluded, much more magic power than all of us combined. I'm sure that comes with some side effects. Thank you very much. Chloe smiled at her. It sounds like it would make sense. In one way or another. As much sense as any of this can make. As I said, Blue's amazing. Sounding extra proud, Sophia patted the parakeet's head on her shoulder a little more, which responded by happily moving its body around the entire time. Less theory crafting, more hot springs. Steph had enough of the conversation and pointed at the steaming water in front of them with an eager expression. Let's go. Then, she immediately stripped down and jumped into the water, making her naked but the last thing the group saw of her before creating a massive splash that even reached some of the girls. I love her enthusiasm, but I think I'll sit that one out. Mira didn't feel like taking a bath right now. Yeah. Faye and the wolves agreed with her. Blue also moved away from the tree and relocated to the overseer's shoulder. Boo. Steph resurfaced and didn't like what she heard. How about you show some modesty and don't present your bare chest to all of us like it's nothing? Anna slowly shook her head while looking at the dog girl, who had everything waist up on full display as that much of her was sticking out of the water. How about you not stare so much instead? Her expression turned into a smirk while noticing how the princess had her eyes glued to her. Well, I'm flattered you like the view. Neither shame nor modesty existed in the being called Steph as she puffed out her modest chest. Let me see something, too. Anna, Ari, Maya, Chloe, sis, all of you. Strip right this instant and join me. The water's great, too. Fine. Overpowered by her energy, the five, once Mira and the others left, also got rid of their clothes and joined the overly excited dog girl in the water. As usual, Maya and Sophia ended up cuddling with each other. Anna and Ari used their bodies to lean onto each other, and Chloe tried to tame the violent whirlwind of their group. This is heaven. Clearly not talking about the water, Steph was looking at all of them while her fox was trying to make her sit tight in the water. How are you still this excited over this? Ari tilted her head. We've been using the other hot spring for like a month already, and we've seen each other naked every night since then. Because all of you are way too hot. There was zero hesitation in her reply. Chloe wins by far, but this much beauty in one spot should be illegal. Sis doesn't count for me, but she also adds to my claim. It's an all-you-can-eat buffet for the eyes. She does have a point. Maya nodded a few times as she squeezed the naked body of Sophia, who had gotten comfortable between her legs. And this tiger counts for me, so I agree with her even more. I guess so. The jaguar couldn't really deny it. Even so, she still tried hard not to stare in a specific direction for too long or hard because she didn't want to get teased about it. The third horniest member of the group has some unfortunate experience with that, after all. Afterward, once some more staring had been engaged in, the group finally shifted their attention to the beautiful cherry blossom backdrop of their new hot spring and decided to relax while cuddling with each other, mostly with their actual partners, for a good while longer. Chapter 070, Secrets of the Forest. The group was awestruck by the cherry blossom forest Sophia and the magic particles had made together. At first, Steph was quite disappointed that there was no hot spring around because a beautiful area like the forest just needed to have one, but after Blue had guided them to an existing one nearby, the dog girl was more than pleased, too. Immediately using this chance, the girls decided to test it out and had a nice bath together. That was great. Back in the cottage, and dressed again, the girls were relaxing together in the living room while being comfy on the sofas. Casual yet somewhat revealing loungewear is great, too, so I can live with the current situation. She was still a little horny. Crop tops are a good compromise. The dog girl was looking at the other girls wearing shorts and some sort of top that was either shoulder-free or showed some level of stomach. Or, which she liked the most, both. Well said. Maya agreed with her. Personally, I might prefer skimpy clothes over fully nude even. Leaving the last bit to the imagination adds spice. Not that I have to actually imagine what the hidden bits are like because I know them, but that's beside the point. I can only dream to be as cultured as you are in the future. The dog girl looked at her with sparkling eyes. You're 3 levels ahead of me. Ehe. We have to make sure that those two are never alone together. Sophia leaned towards Chloe on the other sofa left of her, with a concerned expression. I don't want to imagine what they could come up with when it's just them. Yeah. Chloe nodded. I feel like that would end up being quite intense for us. Maya, do you have some time for me tomorrow? Liking the sound of that, Steph smiled at the cat girl. For you? She smiled back at her. Always, my dear. Ah. The blonde and the fox had the same reaction. You really should have seen that one coming. Ari could only roll her eyes. Why yeah, the two hung their heads. Speaking of tomorrow, Anna tilted her head. Do we have any plans already? Preferably some that don't involve the snowy mountain range from the outside world. Well, I just scored a date with Maya, so I don't have much interest in the snow. Steph, the biggest enthusiast of the place, was preoccupied already. I wouldn't mind exploring it some more, but I doubt it holds any more big secrets like the Cherry Blossom Plateau, so I'm in no rush either. Chloe didn't particularly care either way. I'd like to explore my new forest a little more. Sophia also had enough of the mountain range. It feels like I haven't seen everything yet, so I'd like to take another break day from the other world. Okay. The princess nodded a few times. I might go and visit Aura's place, because it sounds quite awesome. Maybe I got some inspiration for more own ideas, too. Afterward, the girls kept making some more plans to spend the day on personal projects and chatted for a good while longer before eventually turning in for sleep. Alright, Blue, are there any other secrets in the forest here? Sophia was back in the hot spring area from the day before and patted her favorite parakeet sitting on her shoulder while looking around. In response to that, the bird pressed its head against her hand a couple of times while chirping a happy-sounding tune before eventually taking flight. Do you want me to follow you? She watched Blue flying around in front of her while tilting her head to guess the intent. Immediately after, the parakeet flew through a portal that appeared mere moments before. I guess that's a yes? Also, so everyone's using portals to wherever now, huh? Shrugging, she then also stepped through it. Oh. Exiting the portal, the blonde found herself on a floating island again. It was a different one from the day before, though. It was roughly the same size, but it had a regular cherry blossom tree in its middle rather than a weeping cherry, and there was no river either. Wow. The most stunning was the view from up there, tough. So many. Hundreds of islands were floating in the air around them. Most of them were of similar size, but some were bigger, while others were massive enough to have an entire small forest on top. Roughly a tenth had rivers raining down on the area below, too. Magic sure acts fast. I just told the sparkly particles that I'd like more floating islands a day ago. Amazing. Blue landed on her shoulder again and chirped a couple of times, almost sounding proud while doing so. It's also impressive how much you are in contact with magic. Yesterday, you knew exactly where the hot spring was, and now this. I mean, it makes sense because you're made from pure magic, but still. She had trouble finding the right words. Anyway, you're amazing. Her conclusion was the same nonetheless, and the tiger petted the parakeet some more. This is so amazing. Sophia got a little closer to the edge of their floating island to get a better look at all the others around, as well as slightly above and below them. Oh. It's really just plain old dirt and rocks beneath those islands, huh? It was the first time she was able to see how they were floating from another point of view. So surreal. Awesome, though. She was really excited about it. Blue. The tiger addressed the bird in a highly energetic way. Are there any other great places hidden in the forest? I'm in an explorer mood and want to see something amazing. Looking at it with sparkling eyes, the parakeet took flight once more and flew around the blonde a couple of times before yet another portal appeared in front of them. Let's go. She immediately jumped into it while Blue followed after her. Oh, I think I saw this from above. They ended up right at the edge of a massive ravine that was splitting a huge part of the forest apart. It was impossible to tell how long it was, because it curved around and eventually disappeared into the forest, but it was about 100 meters wide. Whoa! Getting closer to the edge and looking down, Sophia's eyes grew wide. It was multiple hundreds of meters deep. In fact, she had trouble making out the bottom of the ravine because there were numerous ledges and overhanging rock blocking the view and lighting from above. Alright, I want to go down there. Hearing her highly excited voice, Blue flapped its wings extra strongly while flying around the tiger, and yet another portal appeared right in front of them. No, that's not what I mean. Sophia shook her head. Half the fun is getting there. Not just jumping, either. I wonder if I can find a path that I can use. Understanding her desire for adventure, the parakeet let the portal disappear again and flew a few laps over the ravine. Oh, did you find anything? Sophia noticed that it had eventually started circling over a specific spot near the edge around 40 meters to the left of the blonde. Let's see. She moved over to the place and looked over the cliff to see what was going on. That's a start. After saying so, the tiger walked over the edge and disappeared into the ravine. That's what it looked like, at least. 2 meters done, some hundreds left. After jumping, the blonde landed on a ledge roughly 2 meters down on the side of the ravine. Let's see if we can keep going down like that. She then looked further down to find any other spots she could jump to continue her descent. That should work. Sophia found another platform about 15 meters down to the right of her and swiftly jumped onto it. I'm really not human anymore, huh? She lightly patted her legs after landing the 10-meter fall like it was nothing and looked up at the spot she came from. Humans don't usually land a 15-meter jump on a hard surface, with the only issue being some dust on their clothes, right? At the same time, Blue also flew down and landed on her shoulder before rubbing its head against Sophia's cheek. You like non-human me better? Yeah, I'll agree on that. There were some ups and downs, but the girl definitely preferred being a half-tiger magic sponge over her previous human life. Let's get all the way down like this. Energetically raising her fist while sounding highly motivated, Sophia then quickly jumped to another ledge further down on the ravine's walls. She kept going like that for around half an hour, finding ledges and jumping from one to another while getting further down the ravine. It took a while because she didn't want to cheese it by jumping right to the bottom, which wouldn't have been a problem for her, as that would have ruined the mood and fun getting down there in a somewhat creative way. WWOAH. Finally arriving at the bottom of the ravine and noticing that there was something rather unexpected that wasn't visible while climbing down, Sophia's eyes grew wide. I have to get Anna and Chloe. They need to see this, too. Immediately after saying that, the tiger created a portal at the bottom of the ravine and disappeared through it to bring over her friends. Announcement. Discord server. https://discord.gg/wua6w6vbyn. Work in progress, might be scuffed. Not sure if that's a good idea, but let's give it a try.